So for each of the problems we've previously seen, I kept saying we can wait to divide by E until the end because E, the expected value, is the same, but that was because the populations came from uniform distribution. But in this case, we don't have an equal distribution of soda drinkers per type or type, whatever you want to call it. So I can't do the problem exactly the same, but I'm going to have to address it that way. So when I look at the question, it says the distribution of soda preference does not equal the store owners. So I'd already written H naught for you. This distribution is 55% Coke drinkers, 32% Diet Coke, and 12%. Our claim is going to be H naught because we have inequality, does not equal. And I'm going to be lazy and write the distribution does not equal the null hypothesis. I should say the distribution does not equal 55% Coke drinkers, 32% Diet Coke drinkers, and 12% Sprite drinkers, but I get lazy. So in terms of solving the problem, the easiest thing is to find the critical value first. And so when we find the row, we do n minus 1. But what is n for this problem? Well, remember, n is the number of categories. So in this case, n is the 3 brands of soda or types, Coke, Diet Coke, and Sprite. So 3 minus 1 means we'll go to row 2. The column is given to us way up top in the beginning, 0.05. And so using the table, I got the chi-squared value, the critical value of 5.991. So now let's go ahead and find the test statistic. Since the claim is not from a uniform distribution, as I've been repeatedly saying, but instead a proportional distribution, right? 55%, 32%, 12%. These are the proportion of drinkers per brand. Then we do have to create the expected value for each one. So remember, to get the expected value, we take the total number divided by the categories. So first I need to find how many soda drinkers were surveyed. And this is right off of the question. I put it into a table. So when I add those numbers, 50 people were surveyed from this store. And so now I need an expected number of Coke drinkers out of 50 people who are drinking soda or were surveyed. So I'm going to take 50 people times 55% to get 27.5, and I'm going to go ahead and keep the decimal. And continuing with this process for my 32 Diet Coke drinkers, 13 out of 50 is what? Well, 13 did, but what's the expected value? So I've got 50 times 32% Coke drinkers is 16. It was a whole number, so I'm fine there. And when I go to do the Sprite drinkers, 50 people, 12%, I got 6. But if you notice, if I add up all of the numbers that I got, I'm only totaling 49.5. And I didn't round any of my decimals, but that's just sometimes what happens. I didn't total the 50 Coke drinkers, but we're not going to worry about that. So now I have each expected value per category. So I'm going to need to fill that in and subtract observed from expected, square, and divide by expected. This time I do need to write it because you'll notice that the expected is different on each category. So I can't just turn around and add the tops and then divide by one value at the bottom. Because it's getting a little more involved, even though some of the subtractions and squaring I could do in my head, I'm just going to get out my calculator and do each piece as a whole, and then I have numbers to add. And it's only the third one that when I go to add is a decimal that keeps going, and so I'm going to get 2.329, etc. for my expected value. And so now we're ready to make our final decision. So we just found that the test statistic was 2.33 with rounding. And I don't know if it is or is not in the critical region, but don't forget, we just found that the critical region is 5.991. So I got to do that picture where I'm labeling both numbers, putting them in order on a number line, and then shading to the right of the critical value. So now I can say that the test statistic is not in the critical region. Therefore, we fail to reject H naught. Don't forget the claim was H1 because it was the claim that it does not meet the store owner's statement. So there is not sufficient sample evidence to support the claim that the distribution of soda preference does not equal, that was the piece we just said, a store owner's statement that his customers' soda preference is split as 55% Coke drinkers, 32% Diet Coke drinkers, and 12% Sprite drinkers. Really long one, but we're done.